folks? Back again. This is Lit Literature, and it's your host, JP, aka the Demon. And we're here to talk about riddles and trains and doors today.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. Oh my, oh yeah. The Wastelands. We are finally getting to record. Felt like a decade ago I read it, but it was really just last week.
Yes.
We are joined with the usual suspects. I could say that wrong.
You did already. It's okay.
Plus one.
Yeah, just a little disclaimer. Jeff got like 2 hours sleep last night, so this might be a little bit of a weird podcast today.
Yeah, I know it's normally hard to understand him, but please be patient this time.
Yeah. All right, we got the Captain, probably from.
Yes, actually today I don't really know where I'm at. I'm in some kind of a restaurant with a bunch of extremely old but really sweet albino people, and they're serving me sumptuous desserts with blueberries and buffalo cream.
Oh.
Who thought it would be so good?
Now I'm hungry.
No, man.
Be careful with that buffalo cream.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know where that comes from.
Well, if they have Buffalo Trace, then it's all right.
That's right, sir. Hitman?
Here for one more episode.
Just one?
Just one.
Just
Maybe
one.
tiring.
Aww.
We got Brett, the director.
Aim the dream?
And today we do not have the Cherry. He is, I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
We lost him somewhere.
He wasn't here for the first Dark Tower. Neither was I. You're welcome.
Yeah, if you're only going to be so lucky. Like
Yeah, I know. So I just realized that I left ZZ Top on the background,
Oh, jeez.
ready to be played.
No. Please don't. Oh my god.
No.
Velcro fly.
We'll be put in a battle trance.
Yeah, battle trance. Let's start hanging each other, guys, just for the hell of it. All right, cool.
Wastelands.
Yeah, Wastelands. Here we go. So we started, obviously, almost 5 weeks, I think, after Yep, there it is. Boom. We started about 5 weeks. I think this takes place 5 weeks after ending of Drawing of the Three.
Uh-huh.
Our team is pretty ragged from the events that they've went through.
Yeah.
And they're starting some training with Roland in the bayou.
Yeah.
Or actually, I think just in some kind of a forest valley or something like that.
It was cool to see the kind of beginning and going through the training and like really kind of making them gunslingers, even though they kind of already were, I guess. He kind of picked them because they had like those elements in them. It's cool to see Roland really cultivating and fine-tuning those instincts in them. It was, I don't know, that whole section, the whole kind of like training up section, I thought was really cool.
Well, we even talked about it before. It was kind of neat because Roland is already, even in the past books, you know, he's taking the teacher role. Mm-hmm. You know, he's got Eddie kind of teaching Eddie the hard way. He's always like, Court would do this, Court would do that, how would I do it? Mm-hmm. So he fits right in as a teacher, I think.
Yeah. I'm surprised he's such a good teacher.
Yeah.
He's like so patient
Yeah,
and like
me too.
understanding.
Yeah.
And he's so much not like Court, because that was his only teacher.
Yeah.
Would have figured him to be like smacking them around, but he's like, no, I only smack kids around. I don't do that to adults.
I guess so. And go ahead, Captain.
There was a really cool one-liner that Roland delivers in this section of the book, where he, instead of like smacking or physically abusing his students, he goes the shame route. And he says, if you forget to fire with your hand, if you forget to aim with your eyes, you have forgotten the face of your father. And I've already started using that in my daily conversation with people who know about this book. If I want to apologize, I'll just be like, I'm sorry, I have forgotten the face of my father.
It's awesome. That's very good.
It is. It's such a cool little phrase that they use. I guess it's just like part of the gunslinger training. I guess all gunslingers use this phrase, right?
Yeah, well, it has. I think it has to do with their in-world culture.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's more not just the gunslingers, but the whole culture.
Just the whole world. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Like,
it's a
his world,
really
not the
cool
world
phrase.
has moved on.
Yeah, and it's cool to get that kind of insight into Roland And also, you get the sense that he's really enjoying being around people again.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Well, he said that he was really enjoying teaching.
yeah.
Which I was like, what? I thought you hated people. Like,
Right. Right.
I mean, it kind of...
There's a... Oh, go ahead, Brad.
I was just going to say, it kind of gives you a little bit more insight into Roland, and I might blend some of the books exactly when we start learning some of this stuff, but it gives you a little bit more insight into just the fact that he's not, like, in the beginning, he seems almost like he's kind of a dick, and almost like, is he even a good guy?
Yeah.
You know? But, like, we really start to realize that it's not so much that he's a dick, he's just, like, really kind of straightforward and logical, and
And he's single-minded with his goal.
and he's single-minded with his goal, and he I don't know. I grow to like him more and more and more as we learn more about him.
Yeah.
Even though
yeah,
in
but I
the
mean, he doesn't
beginning-
go out of his way to do bad things, so I would say he's not really... I never really thought he was like a bad guy.
In the Gunslinger, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure exactly what we were supposed to think of him.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't see him as like an outright villain, but I was just like, but is he even like a good guy? You know, like he's not like a villain in the sense that he's doing bad just to be bad. But most bad people aren't doing bad just to be bad. You know, they have jaded reasons to think that what they're doing is good. So I was like, is this guy like even the protagonist? Like I have no idea what to think. But now that I've gotten to know him, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a guy I can get behind. I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more character progression with Roland in this book particularly. I think he makes some of his biggest character development jumps in this book.
Yeah.
When you compare a lot of the events from the Gunslinger and even Drawing of the Three to Wastelands, we're kind of looking at a newer and improved, and in my opinion, better version of Roland. Because if you look at the way he treats strangers and villages and things like that in Gunslinger, it's so vastly different from how he treats his partners and strangers in the Wastelands.
Yeah.
You know, there's not much more that needs to be said about that. Roland is definitely like aligned with the forces of good in this book for sure.
It's almost like Susanna points it out a lot. She's like, this is what he was like.
Yes.
This was like he's in his natural zone.
He's in his element.
Yeah. his
Right.
element. So
It's like bringing back his old self from before the world
The
moved
world
on.
moved on.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like what he was, and then we don't really know how long he's been wandering and how jaded and like just only
Or just-
cares about his
yeah.
quest, and everyone else is just a hindrance.
Well, we don't really know much about like his
what
past.
happened there? Yeah,
Yeah.
we got a lot to learn.
Yeah,
I
we
think.
don't like. We really don't know the character that well.
Which one of my favorite books? The one that we're gonna read next, Wizard in Glass.
Oh, really? That comes next.
Is that the
Oh yes.
sequel?
Like we didn't even know his name for the first part of the first book.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, who's just a gunslinger.
Gunslinger.
Yeah. Wizard in Glass is the next book we get to read, and now that I've read this one over again and enjoyed it so much, Wizard in Glass I think was my favorite of the series.
Oh, yeah.
However, my opinion may change this read through. It's been so long.
just thinking
you know?
about what Brett said earlier, I would be so disappointed when that book came out because
Oh my
of how
God.
this book ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Where you have to wait.
Yeah, it ended on that cliffhanger, and then finally the nuke book comes out, and it's a prequel.
Although to
I'm
be
like,
fair,
oh my God.
It's
this one
combined.
actually came out I think after all the books were done. He like went
No,
back, right?
not this one.
No, I'm saying Wizard in Glass, the
No,
next one.
That's Wind Through the Keyhole.
Oh, that's Wind Through the Keyhole.
Yeah, so Wizard in
Oh.
Glass is the fourth book, and then Wind Through the Keyhole came out when the whole series was done, and it takes place in between 4 and 5.
Oh man. So the
So-
next one's a prequel. We don't even get
Well, it's not exactly.
Oh man, I'm mad.
It's don't be mad, folks. It's not exactly a prequel.
Mm-hmm.
From my understanding, it's kind of like a finish and then story time.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of jumping ahead here. So basically, Stephen King is all like, oh, sorry I had to leave you there. This book's kind of writing itself. And then his next instinct was, let's write a whole nother book where I still just leave him there. You dick.
I'm pretty sure that Stephen King was like, "Sorry, not sorry."
I love that. I'm
See you
sure
later, alligator,
When we get
in
to
a-
the
in
end,
a
I
wild
did
crocodile.
love how he left the that little like explanation
Oh,
of
yeah.
his cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ending was good.
Yeah. He is a discovery writer, and with these books specifically, he discovery wrote even more.
Right.
So each book, he literally has no idea where it's going till he gets there. He's like on the ride with us, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
So
He's not on the ride with us. He's writing the book.
but he's on the ride that we're riding. He's just doing it real time.
No.
He's doing it through his fingers.
Yeah, well,
not
he's
his
writing it
fingers.
ahead of us, not with us.
He's a discovery writer, bro. We could talk about this all day, but I'm not getting into it.
Go on.
So, what do you guys think about the Guardians, aka
The robots?
Yeah.
Shurdil?
Yeah, the little robots.
Shurdil.
I don't know. They're not like technically robots. They have organic
Yeah,
material.
the robotic
They're like
bear. The robotic
cyborgs.
Yeah, the robotic bear from was it Positronics Limited or something?
Something
Something
like
Positronics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So weird.
I know. It's super weird. And it has a very like our world sounding company name.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
after the Gunslinger.
Corporate.
Actually, one thing that was weird about this, and actually not the last one, because the last one we spent most of the time in our world, but because of the first two books, we spend the first book all in this kind of like desert wasteland, like
Yeah.
old Wild West feeling type
Yeah.
of vibe. And then the next one, it's like we're either on a beach or in our world.
Yep.
And then this one, we start seeing like cities and shit like that, and it took me a long time to wrap my head around the fact that there's like even cities in this world. I'm like, I kept imagining like these old Wild West like homesteads, and then
Yeah.
they're like, oh, this big building, and I'm just like, wait, what building? Where the hell are we?
Yeah.
It was so
And
weird.
I don't know how it was possible to make a beach so depressing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, when it's filled with man-eating lobsters.
yeah, those lobstrosities.
Oh man.
That can
If
add to
anyone does the
to
audiobook,
aura.
oh my gosh, the reader who does the voice for
Did it chick?
Yes.
Monstrosities.
Oh my god, I
Donut
laughed
chop?
every time. I
Oh,
was
he's
like,
so good.
He is amazing.
Was that Goodall or whatever, or was that Miller?
Frank
Miller?
I want to say Frank Miller.
I think it's Frank Miller.
Was it
yeah.
Frank Miller in those?
Frank
Okay.
Frank Miller did well. He originally did a Gunslinger through Wizarding Glass, but then they redid Gunslinger because they re-released it with the new material. Mm-hmm. So we actually only get Drawing of the Three through Wizarding Glass.
Okay.
Which
Yeah, he's good. But
yeah,
the other
he's
guy's good
awesome.
too.
The other guy's great too, and actually, considering the circumstances, they had to make the change.
Yeah,
obviously.
obviously.
So. However, love his work in these. So his voices are fantastic. His Eddie, his pacing, his Didachicks and Dumachums.
Yeah.
His Oi.
Oh my gosh,
his
his-
Oi is phenomenal.
phenomenal. No, but even more than Oid is
Dude.
Jake. Oh my god, I love every time he does Jake's voice.
Yeah, Jake's voice is awesome.
Because he's
Yeah.
blamed the pain.
Blame
Dude,
pain.
Oi, though, was another thing or creature or something in the book that I just completely envisioned wrong for a long time. I don't know why, but the name Billy Bumbler to me like invoked images of like almost like a frog-like creature.
Oh wow.
And
wow.
It wasn't until I read it through the second time, because we ended up skipping last week's filming. Mm-hmm. So I read it through a second time, and then I noticed that they described it as having like long, silky hair, and I'm like, wow, I've been
So
objecting you. Or
the
whatever.
cool thing about
Yeah.
Oi is he's kind of a combination between a dog, a cat, a weasel. It's got like a longer
raccoon.
neck, a raccoon,
A raccoon for
and,
sure.
and it has and a parrot.
Yeah.
Not in appearance, but in mannerisms.
In
or-
mannerisms.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
he's
but
hilarious.
he's super awesome. But getting back to the Guardians, yeah, I thought the bear was really cool, and I liked the whole scene, and I liked how he brought like such a kind of sense of danger to that whole scene,
yeah,
and yeah, it was really cool. The Positronics, as soon as they started like reading like company names on these Guardians that were like that Roland was basically saying like,
They're like
oh, I
10,000
wasn't even
years
sure if
old.
these existed. They were like folklore almost.
Myth.
You know, they
Yeah.
were myths.
Yeah, it's so weird because my whole perspective on Roland's world is like Wild West.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when they were talking about this and how they existed before and then it like ended and then the world moved on, or whatever. So I was just like, what the French toast? So it's actually he's kind of in the future, but I always thought that he was in the past.
So I think the question that we have to ask is it post-apocalyptic?
I think so.
Or is it there's, at this point in the future, some point way in the future, they find a way to tie multiverse and multi-time, dimension, and space together with these quote-unquote beams.
I don't know if they did, but somebody did, because that's what the Dark Tower is doing.
Yeah,
right.
And the reason that space, it's like when Roland's like, it's getting longer. Everything's getting longer.
Yeah.
It's like stretching, but it's not breaking matter. It's stretching matter itself almost, or stretching something.
Stretching.
I don't know. It's a question that we have to ask and think about as we watch. Is it? I mean, obviously, the Wastelands is indicative of the post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
But what else? Is it post-apocalyptic and some time mesh? Is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they did talk about Amico and some various other like strange things that exist in Roland's world, but then. To Roland, he said, like, when they found, not to get too... Oh, by the way, speaking of Frank Miller, his voice for the Tick-Tock Man with that slight southern drawl.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
That was good.
Yeah.
Andrew Swift, I believe his name is.
Yeah. Right. Right. That was a big, like, epiphany for me. I'm like, wait a minute. The Tick-Tock Man's alive? Wait a minute. His name is Andrew? My name is Andrew. Oh, my God. What have I become?
I'm a demon.
But kind of piggybacking off of that point you were making, Jeff, where you were kind of saying, what type of a world is this? It's not, like, strictly classified. And I think, and this is jumping ahead just a little bit, but it totally hits this theme right on the head, is when they're, at the end of the book, when they're finally on Blaine, and they're going past the city of Lud, and they're going through all of these, like, horrifyingly weird, mutated landscapes. It's like, dude, this is even more different from a lot of the environments that we've seen in Roland's world already. Like, what the fuck is this? It looks like part of the world is, like, mutated into, like, an alien-scape with, like, gigantic monsters, like, slithering around in junkyard landscapes and stuff like that. It gets really weird and pretty creepy at that point.
It's almost like not only did the world move on, but at Lud is kind of like the gate where shit is just shitty after Lud, but it's not as shitty as it is before Lud.
But when I was reading that, I was thinking, man, this had to be ground zero for whatever happened.
Right.
Like a nuclear bomb or some other kind of device. This is where it's hit, and it destroyed this land, and that city was in ruins.
Yeah.
And then that's what the outcome of whatever that is, all the mutations, those giant monsters.
I'm starting to get the feeling that, a lot of these problems definitely seem to be, like, human or humanoid or person created. And because they talk about, like, the godlike people that weren't gods, but like had the knowledge and like powers of like gods or something like that. Like
the
they
great
knew so
old
much.
ones.
Yeah. And it's almost like they unlocked certain technologies that they didn't fully understand, and then they created like these other things to kind of fix it. You know, like, oh, we opened these doors, but we didn't know how it would affect the the world and how they did it, and like maybe as people went through, that brought consequences that they didn't expect. So then they created the Guardians to guard those doors. But then, it started affecting their world in ways that they didn't anticipate. Yeah. So then they all like died off, or something happened to them, and those Guardians kept the doors protected for as long as possible, but now they're breaking down because there's no mate. It's like, it just seems like there were like these steps of like overstepping their bounds and then trying to fix it with things, and then that just slowly had consequences that they didn't understand.
But it's interesting because Roland talks about how even when he was a kid, the world has started to move on, and like people didn't realize it. So like, how far back does that go?
Right.
Before the apocalypse, did whoever was in control of the tower like push things to make this happen as it did?
Right.
Or some other things?
And I think we still don't know. It's really interesting because not only is there like this science element to everything, but there's like this godlike fate element. Where you'll have like them guided and given an answer, almost like magic.
Yeah.
And even
it's the Ka-tet.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the key and the rose and drawing a door and all this kind of like strange things that almost need some kind of entity, like higher being or higher entity to do something. I don't know if it is or not, but it feels like somebody
knows something. Like Jake just knows some stuff.
Yeah.
And so does Eddie, and like they start seeing the future.
And like the psychic connection that they have, right? Like, did it get set up? Did somebody set it up? Did somebody choose them, or did this just happen? You know, how does this? We don't know yet how this universe works in terms of science and magic and
because
all
even
of this.
Because even the doors, technically, even though they seem magical to us, because we don't actually have things like that in our world, like maybe someday we will. You know, like magic is basically just kind of an unexplained science. You just don't know how the thing that you're looking at works, you know?
Right.
A magician, to them, it's just normal, you know? If we lived in Harry Potter world, it's not magic to them. It's just, this is how things are done. But yeah. So, like, that is science. But, like, the whole Ka-tet connection doesn't seem like it can be explained by science. So that is interesting, the two kind of things. There seems to be some...
Because, like, Roland knew about it. He just never brought it up.
Yeah.
It was like I'm not... it's weird because he's like, I'm not part of this Ka-tet yet, fully in. Like, the other group is all, like, super connected. Even Oi.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm still on the outside. Like,
although, that's weird, though, because how can Oi kind of be in on it? Didn't Roland say, like, he thinks that he's not in on it because I'm not of your world? But the Billy Bumbler seems to be in on it.
That was what he thought, but then when the Billy Bumbler seems to be in on it, he kind of...
Oh, did they touch on that? I must have missed
Well, he didn't really touch on it, but he still just knows that he's not part of it. He could convey messages, but he doesn't have the same kind of psychic connection that the rest of them do. Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
It is super interesting.
Did you guys think it was hilarious?
To see how the Ka thing plays out more in the future. There's one specific example of Ka in this. I don't know if we want to touch on it yet, but the bookstore.
Oh yeah,
was like
Tower.
Ooh, yeah,
the Tower. I mean,
Mr. Tower. What was his name? Something Tower.
No, Mr. Tower.
Mr. Tower.
Mr. Tower.
Yeah. At the bookstore.
Gave him the riddling book.
Yeah.
It's like not only did he give him the riddling book, but he gave him a riddling book that just so happened to not have the answers in it, so that they wouldn't be killed by Blaine later, just to and take the answers for himself.
Yeah.
Because that seemed to be like a big part of it. It's like the answers aren't even in it; they're in my head. Like, you need us.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Just like Jake finding the rose and being guided to Tower and all this stuff. It's almost like somebody's kind of, leading him along somehow. And that's where I bring up that entity part.
Right.
I don't know that it's an entity or what.
But the other strange thing, though, is did anybody else kind of get the feeling that the bookstore Tower, I guess it was, the bookstore manager or whatever, he seemed to know that book was special, He seemed to be in on the gag or whatever the cow was doing.
On the riddle book or the
the riddle book.
I think Mr. Tower though was the guy that helped him out, but then there was the actual store owner.
Yeah, I'm talking about the store owner. Whoever
owner
that
was Mr. Tower, and there was a customer
the friend
who was
that
playing
was playing chess with him,
and he was like, "Give the kid a break."
I got a very never-ending story.
Oh my god! I thought the same exact thing.
I felt like this bookstore guy just knew what was up and was almost just like, here.
The more that I go back on this book, the more that I love it, because I realize that when I think about the book, I want to think of, I kind of almost want to take the first half and my imagination puts it in Drawing of a 3. And then the second half is its own book. But in this book alone, the character development is so aggressive for almost all of the characters.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm reading
character development actually happens.
2 different books. Yeah. Well, it kind of does.
This is the first book that I read that I was like, okay, I enjoyed this.
Oh, see, I like Drawing of the 3.
I like Drawing of the 3.
I thought the Gunslinger was like,
I can agree with that.
No good. Well, I mean, not no good, but I was like,
really abstract and hard to follow.
Yeah,
right.
I was like, this is not a good introductory.
But the second book, you didn't like it?
The second book I thought was okay.
Really?
It was okay.
I loved the second.
I loved the second one.
But I love this one even more.
There was something, I don't know what it was. I mean, we already talked about this, I'm sure, when we were talking about the second one, but there was something about Eddie Dean that even though he's really not a great character in the first one, like he's just this junkie that's like, doing things for bad people. I don't know. There's something about the way that he wrote him that made me really like him even in that book.
Yeah.
Now I love him. Now I think he's just fantastic. And I think anybody that can like overcome that type of addiction is somebody to be, respected in some form.
Absolutely.
But I liked him even when he was still a junkie.
Yeah.
There was something about him.
Well,
something about the way he wrote
I loved, and I'm excited, but we get to finally find out, what happens with the whole Jake thing.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love him.
And, we let Jake down in book 1.
Yeah.
And in book 2, we kind of like wonder, did we cause a paradox or not?
Yeah.
We don't quite know. And then in this book, we get the answer, obviously.
When we first got reintroduced to Jake, there was a part of me that was wondering about the timeline. I'm like, wait, was the gunslinger after all this? Like, did we see the gunslinger and then go back in time and then we're working up towards the gunslinger? I mean, that quickly, did not. But I was so confused when we got kind of reintroduced to
they just
Jake.
caused, Roland, when he went into the pusher's body.
In the second book.
In the second book, caused a paradox by literally kind of inadvertently saving Jake. And because of that...
It was not inadvertently. He did do it purposely.
Well, he didn't know then if that was the right time or not, or what he did. But whatever he did set it all off. Because what he found out is the Man in Black never did end up pushing Jake. It was the Man in Black set up our good old buddy the Pusher to push Jake. In that time that Roland went into his body, he wasn't going to push him. But... obviously Roland made sure that bastard got what he deserved by the end of
he wasn't going to push him because he thought it wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
Like, if he thought that was the right time, he would have pushed him.
And it would have been the right time 2 weeks later, but it wasn't.
And so he ended up not killing him.
Exactly.
Which was awesome.
Yeah.
But he also would have killed him.
Yeah.
I felt if it was the right time. I just want to say that.
I think you're probably right about that, Ben. Yeah.
And again, the Ka-tet thing with the fact that Jake... the Pusher was the same guy who dropped the rock on Odetta to make Detta. And the Pusher is the guy who kills Jake, but also doesn't kill Jake. And Jake and Eddie actually met when they were young.
I was going to say that the Pusher also pushed Detta into the train, and she lost a leg.
And Detta got both.
He did it
twice to her.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I just wanted to bring up something. What did you guys think about the scene? I kind of thought it was fun, where the decrepit little Lego creatures that were taking care of the bear. The bear didn't never return. It is the image that I got from Stephen King writing these blocky snake contraptions just reminded me of a straight up 1960s sci-fi movie.
Yeah,
the little wheels. And
when was this written?
I'm not sure about this book. I think this one was later. I know the original Gunslinger was very early.
Yeah.
I think it was in the 70s. But this one, then he took a long break. So this might be in the 80s or 90s.
I thought it was 80s, 86. Cool.
The creatures totally remind me of the little dudes from Batteries Not Included. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie.
Oh, yeah.
It totally reminded me of those dudes. Except that these robots were definitely more decrepit and it was kind of sad because I don't know, they were kind of just innocent creatures, but the sense that you get from Roland and everyone else is that these creatures are suffering and we should just put them out of their misery.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's good training. Especially when you make Eddie do it.
Yeah.
And then Eddie gets really pissed at you.
Yeah.
Because he forgot how fast Roland could be.
Although I don't think he knew quite at that point, right? It wasn't until later when he said duck that he was just like, oh my gosh, he can be that fast?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of an interesting point. So I just liked it. And then, of course, Eddie is in his dilemma right now with Roland where he's kind of angsty. He's the angsty student.
Yeah.
So then we get to the paradox, which is driving both Roland and Jake completely insane.
Yeah,
I thought this was. Yeah, go ahead.
That was a really cool way to do it. I felt so bad for Jake because you could tell he's like going insane because he knows like I should be dead right now. Like why am I living this life like I should be dead? And yet he keeps on going, and he's like slowly like these memories are resurfacing in his mind, and he's like, wait a minute, like I can tell the future, like I'm supposed to do this and I'm supposed to do that, and then it's like supposed to lead him to his death, and when that doesn't happen, he's like, well, I just need to go back to that world that I can remember now.
Yeah.
So you're kind of right along there with him, like when he's going on his door opening rampage, where every time he opens a door, he thinks it's going to bring him into Roland's world. You're kind of like, man, I really want that to be a gateway for him.
I know,
like,
every
I want
time
him to...
you're just like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
Come
And King does it like 20 times.
I know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It really cracked me up when he was in school and he opened up the closet. And it's just a little player. The girl's like, next time you can invite me into the closet.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. Jake.
And all he's thinking about are Roland.
It's like, I died.
It's like, you weirdo.
That's another reason I liked it, though. I thought it was a very unique way to introduce a paradox into the world. And it's like they can't even control it. It's not just memories. It's actually breaking their mind.
Yeah.
Like it's ruining them.
Right.
And it will lead to them just self-destructing, dying, snapping, popping, going mad.
Yeah. You can really see it was Jake a lot more than Roland, but when he was going to school, he like ghost wrote the paper, he turned it in, it's like, I wrote this?
Yeah.
And he read it and he freaked out. It was... I wish I had that so I could read it again, but his paper was crazy.
Yeah, it was completely crazy.
And
the teacher's like, that's amazing. You're so
I
insightful.
need a teacher who thought that was amazing.
Right.
I would have been like, this kid's a goddamn serial killer.
Yeah.
I was like, did you leave class early because you didn't think I was going to understand this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blame the
That
train.
teacher was like, challenge
love my dad.
accepted.
Love him. Kill. Blames it. Terrible.
It's kind of funny because this is a little bit of a side story, but it reminds me a little bit of when I was in school. One of my classmates, his like great grandfather wrote Wizard of Oz.
Oh wow.
And it reminds me of like how sometimes in academics, not always, but sometimes you can actually just inject meaning that isn't there.
Yeah.
Like she starts putting all of this meaning and symbolism into something that maybe Stephen King meant it in his writing of it, but Jake didn't mean it, you know, like he just like lived it and was like, his mind was going nuts. Yeah. And I just thought that was funny because a similar thing happened in our class where our like teacher was like going through all this symbolism of Wizard of Oz, and then basically the kid like stood up. He's like, actually, my great grandfather wrote it, and it's a well-known family secret that he was just on shrooms the whole time. It's like he had no meaning behind it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that reminded me of that for some reason.
Yeah,
It kind of reminds me about even art or
Really?
painting. People often think that their opinion on art is correct regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is just wrong.
Right.
And it's okay.
I think it's, I mean, this is a little bit of a side discussion, but I think it's fine for you to say, like, oh, these are the thoughts that they bring out in me. Like, this is what it makes me think of. But to say, like, oh, the artist definitely meant this, it's like, well, maybe I'll ask the artist about that and see if you're right.
Because I remember when I was in English class, the teacher was like, oh, one of the, like, old books, like, either Catch and the Rye or The Jungle, something along those lines, those books.
One of those classics, yeah.
The author wrote them, and then, like, he got interviewed about all this symbolism in his book, and it's like, no, I didn't write any symbolism in my book. It's just a book I wrote. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's so great.
Like, maybe people can apply the symbolism later, but the author might not have meant to put it in.
Well, sometimes they do put it in. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just have this subconscious that they're writing something.
Yeah.
And the symbolism is like, I think Stephen King even admitted to basically being drugged out of his mind when he wrote multiple books.
Right.
Like Misery, I think. I'm reading his autobiography. I think he says, when I wrote Misery, he was just basically coked out of his mind the whole time.
Right.
He had no idea what he was writing.
I think there are, well, not to stay on this point for too long, but I think there are definitely like times when artists can put things into their books that they don't know. Like they find it compelling because
Well,
it's like this
something-
universal
something
something that
in
they
there,
like,
yeah.
and then other people attach their meanings to those
Yeah.
somethings. But anyway, back to this book.
Back to the story. Very interesting, but I did love that. So we kind of talked about the books.
There's one more thing I want to say about that
go
essay.
for it.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I almost
Go for it.
feel like that
It's
essay, he didn't remember writing it. He didn't remember doing anything. He just turned it in. I feel like he was in I guess it would be a dream state, and it was almost like a see in the future paper. What is that?
Clairvoyance.
Yeah, clairvoyance. And he wrote it because so much of that paper contained like clues and hints to the future and how they should deal with it.
Right.
I was like,
Well,
wow.
Roland did always say, even in the Gunslinger, that Jake had some of the touch, they call it.
Oh
Did he?
yeah.
I don't know
And
that.
he's strong. He's like his buddy Alan. Depends on who's reading and how they write it, but
I like Len better, so let's say Len.
I think Alan is Frank Miller. The other guy might be Elaine. We'll find out when we get to the various books. But either way, that particular buddy was very strong on the touch, and both Susanna has it in a different way as well as Jake. And Susanna kind of has this like intuition of the past, and Jake seems to have this intuition
Into
of
the
the
future.
future.
Yeah. I think all three of them have some kind of intuition.
And-
I remember Eddie, but I can't specifically remember what he did.
Right.
Or what
But you
brought down
remember
the book.
reading something that made
That-
you think about it?
He had some feeling that he had no way of knowing, but
Yeah.
this is it.
Well, it was all about
Yeah,
the key.
key, yeah.
Like he had to make this key.
Oh, yeah, the
He had
key.
the whole he just saw this piece of wood and he's like, "That's it. That's the wood.
The
and
tree,
this is the
yeah.
key." And he's got to carve this.
Yeah.
And he also was the one who saw when Roland burned the jawbone
Yeah.
when he was going insane at first. It was not Roland. It was not Susanna. It was Eddie who saw the rose and the key, and it was also Eddie in his dreams that
Right.
would visit the tower and see the roses
And Jake.
see-
Right.
and
who-
Jake and the city. Like
Yeah.
he lived what that whole
Guided
Jake
Jake a little bit.
section. So it's pretty interesting. So I think we got a lot to learn about how our characters are connected. But that's pretty sweet. What do you guys think about that rose, man? That whole scene was
Crazy.
crazy.
Oh, you're talking about like when he like goes into the rose and starts
I
seeing
was-
like all these universes.
Yeah, dude,
and-
I was like, I was reading
Yeah.
it before bed, and I was just like, whoa, I'm so, I had like crazy.
He
half
he
sleep.
kind of like ended up seeing exactly what the Man in Black was
Showed Roland.
describing, right? Or showed
Showed
Roland.
Roland.
Yeah,
It's almost like the rose is a universe.
right.
Yeah.
It's like all universes.
All universes somehow, like a little
Yeah.
lever point. It's like the Black Tower is just this little thing on the rose.
Right.
yeah.
It's a little thorn on the rose.
Yeah, it was
But it's
hilarious.
interesting because Eddie later dreams of the Dark Tower and is surrounded by a rose
Red roses. Yeah.
So
Could
all
be a
those
rose
roses could be
from
like
the Dark Tower.
Each one of those roses is a world or universe.
Right.
And they all
it's
connect right there.
Super cool. It's super unique. I don't know
It's
how to
crazy.
think about it. Yeah. And then the key is just like there. And also, the grass is spray painted purple to hide the one purple blade of grass that's actually there. Right? You guys catch
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
part?
Yeah.
This is like somebody just like spray painted it to hide it.
To hide it.
Yeah.
So that purple blade must be important
I don't
somehow.
know what it's all about.
Otherwise, why would you want to hide it?
Yeah.
So people wouldn't pick the rose.
And there was like singing happening from the plants.
Super majestic singing.
Yeah.
Like,
I
what
want to
the
see
French
that in a
Toast.
film.
Yeah.
Fuckers. I'm so glad Amazon bought the rights to redo this.
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. Well, you
they
can
don't
see it in
ruin
pretty
it
much
also.
any cartoon from the
Well, it's gonna be a
1950s.
series, not a movie.
There's
so
always
I'll
singing
let change that
flowers.
feel.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't think the flowers were so much as singing as whenever he like was
Everything
near the
looked at-
rose or the key, he just felt this majestic,
It's like, everything, he felt faces looking at him, and I thought it was those faces and everything was singing. Like all the items around him.
That was trippy. I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Manny, just try some LSD and
I know.
You'll get it.
psychedelics, brother. No. Let's see. And we kind of already talked about gods or divine intervention. That's kind of what I was talking about because I'm curious. Like we get the science, it's something Positronics. I can't remember, but it's something Positronics Inc. or whatever.
Yeah.
So we've got kind of those two things. But what about the whole scenario? Were you like, I felt like I stepped out of. By the way, I feel this reading various of these books, but I feel like we take a section and I step out of the Dark Tower series and into like an It or a Salem's Lot later on. Mm-hmm. When Stephen King goes into sections.
North Central Positronics.
But
very
then we
corporate sounding.
Yeah.
We go to the
Shardik.
house. This like decrepit house. Kind of like one I imagine right out of It.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's like alive. And like for that entire section of the book, I almost don't even feel like I'm reading The Wastelands, a Dark Tower book. I feel like I'm in this kid. This kid's going into this house. And there's like all this crazy.
That section was amazing. We get a double showdown. One in Roland's world with Susanna and the freaking demon who's guarding the circle while Eddie's trying to unlock the door. And then on the other side of the gate, we get Jake like fighting with this freaking living monster house who is guarding the gateway.
Yeah. Dude, that was intense. Yeah. I was like, I didn't go to bed till that scene was over because it was kind of like, I'm just like kind of like, oh shit, and then Jake trips and I'm like, motherfucker!
Oh my god, I was like literally terrified for him. I was like, what the fuck? If I was this kid, I would be like,
dude, I was terrified for her.
Oh yeah, I mean
getting raped by a demon.
But at least but she's like older. He's a kid, and this house is alive and trying to kill him and eat him.
Yeah.
I'd rather be killed than raped. I'm just kidding.
I mean, that was. They were both intensely intense, dark.
Dedo Walker still kind of came out on top in a way,
I know.
Right?
I love how it like ended up turning into the fact that like she was like
keeping him in there,
raping him.
You ain't
he was trying to pull out. He was trying to pull out, and she's like, you're not pulling out now, sucker.
That little white candle.
Yeah.
Oh, so
That's
good.
from book 2.
Yeah, I love her, and that was crazy scene. And then the demon just getting panicked, like, I can't stop.
Yeah.
What do I do? However, that does bring up this whole little concept that they hint at later, where
she's pregnant with his baby.
Whose baby?
Oh, the demon's baby.
God.
I don't know.
Uh-oh.
We don't know if it's the demon's baby or if it's Eddie's baby.
She didn't say she's pregnant yet. She's just starting to worry about it a little bit.
Yeah, because she missed her period.
Well, who do you think's more likely to impregnate her? A demon or an ex-junkie?
Since this is a Stephen King book, I'm going with the demon.
Yeah, that's true. I would presume that Eddie and Susanna have probably made love like at least 4 or 5 times during the progression of the book.
It sounded
but
like
we do bring up a good every night. That just really quick, that scene with the demon. He had an amazing introduction where they first enter the circle and they don't know if the demon's going to be a girl or a boy. And then suddenly they get this smell and this wave of evergreen, juniper berries, and gin. And they're like, oh shit, it's a male. And I realized now I want to market a fragrance called like Essence of Gateway Demon. That's just like gin and like juniper berries and evergreen.
That's amazing. Yeah, market that shit for sure.
You should totally do it, Andrew. Be like, the slogan should be like, when you want to feel like a sex demon.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh
Very
man.
nice.
New T-shirts, guys. They are coming, and they will have that stuff on them.
Yes. That's Gateway Demon.
Yeah.
By California Klein.
Jeez.
That's
By California Klein. It should really be by Topeka Klein or something like that.
Gateway Demon by North Central Positronics.
By North Central Positronics.
Yes. Dude, that was even intense before that, though, because basically they're like, Eddie's going to be busy. And then Roland and Susanna have that kind of like little huddle. And they're like, all right, if it's a man, it's on you. if it's a woman, it's on me.
Yeah.
And Roland,
Roland's
remember.
sitting there
He already-
like, please
he already
be a
went through it
woman,
in the
please
first
be a woman,
No.
please be a woman.
Roland
I gotta
actually
listen
in the
to these two
gunslinger
doing it
was
every
raped.
night.
He did in
Roland
the
was
first
raped
book.
himself in the gunslinger
Yeah.
to help save Jake, but he actually went back to get some
His future
information
Yeah.
on the future.
Dude, there was one other stipulation that they game planned where Susanna says, "What if it swings both ways?" And Roland thinks about it for a minute and he's like, "Then we'll both take it on." That would have been an amazing threesome.
Dude, that scene was just so crazy.
It's so yeah, it's disturbing.
Dude, I
it
love
was
the
disturbing
way
and
you just.
amazing at the same time.
I hope. Well, I'm not sure if your camera is up and running yet. I know we talked about that camera thing, but you did a hilarious impression of Roland right there, and I was just imagining like a Clint Eastwood type character with this super serious sunburnt face go like this. When after Susanna's like, "Sugar, what if it like men and women?" And then you just imagine this Clint Eastwood type guy go. We'll both do it.
Well, I could
Like
power
just
that bitch.
so, just so like calm, just whatever. That's how it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, it worked out. Jake almost died. He did lose his pants and his shoes.
Uh-oh.
One
It was
shoe.
unfortunate. One shoe.
A
Wait.
shoe.
I thought he ended up losing them both when the pants came down because it snagged his pants, and it. I don't know that pants. Maybe
Let's
back
not.
in
Let's not say
I
things
Let's
like
talk
that.
more about
Yeah.
little boy's pants coming
Yeah,
off.
I don't remember.
Can we?
I'm not trying to go
Let's
there.
just stop it there.
I'm just trying to make the point that it
He has
seems
no
like all our
pants.
characters,
And no shoes.
except for Deda, lose
So
clothes
Clothing.
when they go into this world, and they end up making leather moccasins and stuff.
note taken. When Jeff doesn't get enough sleep, he thinks about boys getting their pants ripped off.
No, I think about
Let's squash that
demons.
rumor right now.
Taking boys' pants off.
Jesus loads.
Jeff, you need help.
I'm getting it. Self-medicating, obviously.
Oh no.
Jeff, you need help.
That's why he resorts
God.
to liquor.
So, but anyway, that scene was just nuts, and that's
Yeah,
another
it
thing
was.
that I love about this because that almost felt like a different book than the whole second half. It's
Yeah.
like crazy. It felt like two whole books.
Yeah.
Yet it is long, but it's not like Brendan Sanderson long.
No, that fucking Wizard in Glass looks like a ridiculous book.
I love Wizard
That's
and
long.
Glass. So, I'm pretty pumped though. So Roland commits in this book to telling, because Eddie kind of confronts him.
Yeah.
I want to know about your friends. I want to know what happened and what you're doing and why and blah blah blah. And Roland says, "I'll tell you, but I'm only telling you once, and I'm not ready." Basically.
And this is not
Like,
the
yeah,
time.
now it's not the time. Right.
Yeah.
What'd you think of when they met the old folks in the town, and it had like little, like rickety streetlights that they weren't like light up, but they were like shantier.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they were like from the 50s or
Yeah, those little like
60s ones with those
mold
signs that
railroad
pops in and out
ding,
and goes.
yeah, up and down. And Roland's so good, he just throws it, like throws a rock at it.
Yeah.
Pops out, yeah.
So,
I
and then
really
we-
like that town. It was so interesting, but I felt like, why, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they were all living there. Like, why don't they have any kids?
Yeah.
They
well, they
said
do.
not
I
to
mean,
ever-
They
the
did
move
address
on.
that.
Yeah. What
I don't
was it?
remember that.
Do you remember? They have a few
Yeah.
generations there. But
Yeah.
they have no more.
I thought they were
They
all
have the
like
twins
between
and-
like 50 to like 90.
No, the twins are young. They're the two dudes that are
The
twins.
albino
are like,
dudes.
They're
The
not
albino
young.
twins. No,
I
they're
think
like
Even
60.
Eddie was talking about how he felt bad that they were trying to get the animals and they were like so old.
Yeah.
No,
He was
no,
gonna
no,
jump in and
I-
help them.
He said that they were not old, but just not all up there.
No, I thought they were all old.
I thought they were all old as
like
well. I don't
60
remember.
plus. But they've been living there like for 30 years. So
Yeah.
I want to know like why was never any kids.
We should check that because
Because they even
I-
value like Jake, like
Yeah.
ooh.
like
Well, yeah, they call it the pubes.
Yeah.
They value the pubes, but like
no, that was the city. The
That was the other one.
pubes and the grays.
oh yeah.
Anyways,
yeah,
I got a really eerie vibe from that town, and I literally thought that like they were gonna try to kill them, and there was something in that pie. I don't know what it was, but I didn't like them. I
Oh,
So
wow.
May is not a fan of old people.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was just so
skiing.
It was just so eerie, like
Danny,
the whole
you
town.
Need help.
Oh my god.
It just I got a eerie feeling from it as well, but I actually felt like it was after they left, and it was pretty much proven that they were good people and that they weren't trying to do anything. I actually liked the scene way more than than actually reading it, because when I was reading it, I was just like, all right, what's going to go wrong here?
Yeah!
When are they going to pull out the knife?
Yeah.
So
when is somebody going to die?
You know the reason that I didn't feel that way, and maybe it's I could barely remember it. It's been so long since I read it. That could be part of it, right? Obviously, the intuition, the old memory. But what I really felt was that Jake, he has premonitions of danger in the future. He always has. Mm-hmm. He's always aware of that stuff, and he immediately liked these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I kind of felt
that's true.
Maybe at ease with that. He almost liked them too much.
Until we talked about it now, though, I completely forgot that Jake had any type of premonition.
He liked them a lot.
That wasn't even in my mind when I was...
all the way from every story point, Jake is kind of immediately aware of the truth, in a way. More so than even Roland, who's...
That is true. Even with Roland, he's like...
That's the one thing that Roland always respects.
Yeah. He said it a lot. He was just like, I don't think that's true, or I know that's,
Well, once Roland made his decision, Jake immediately knew.
He knew.
You're going to kill me.
Yeah, you're going to kill me.
And so he has that kind of uncanny ability, and he just really liked these people immediately.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, they might be good.
Yeah. I didn't get that feeling. The feeling that I got, just like Brett, I was like, these people are going to turn at one point and kill everyone.
On this one, I didn't feel that creepy vibe in the village.
Yeah,
I just wondered why there was no kids.
That's why I thought that they were bad. I'm like, these people are probably eating kids or something or maybe they're not even humans.
They were trying to hunt buffalo.
You know what I mean?
Muty buffaloes.
Yeah, but it's also the first instance we see of Roland of what he would have been in the past.
Yeah,
the interaction with
him and the people,
the old world, I guess,
and how respected a gunslinger is.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Roland, although in the first book, The Man in Black's kind of at least for now, Gunslinger, you and me are both kind of immortal. Mm-hmm. He said that to him in the Gunslinger, and then you wonder these people are really old.
Yeah,
and he's just he just kind of looks like him. He looks older now because he had to sleep for 10 years, but
they're they haven't seen one in years. I thought they were dead, all dead.
100 years, something crazy, 80 years. What is the oldest lady was over 100 or something, right? Mm-hmm. If I don't know that for fact, but
now as far as we know, is this the same world as he was in the Gunslinger?
It is so far, because they indicated that they're still technically in. I don't know if they call it mid-world or in-world. Yeah. I'm not sure which one was his. I think end-world is the Dark Tower. Mm-hmm. They're in mid-world. Mm-hmm. And in-world is the other world. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's not the Gunslinger's world or if the Gunslingers were in both.
Yeah, I don't know if those are just areas or if they're different
I thought it was
universes.
Areas in the same world.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Okay. And I'm still so confused then. If they're the same world, I'm still so confused exactly how life and death works in this world.
Yes.
Because they just ask, is he alive or dead?
And also, we've had instances where death was death and instances where death was a gateway to...
Right. Mm-hmm.
But part of that had to do with the Gunslinger, and I think part of it has to do with the beam crumbling. Or not crumbling, I guess.
The world moving on.
The world,
yeah.
They call it the world moving on, but it seems like when they say the beam, this is a crazy concept to me because I think about it and I'm like, I want to envision a beam. But what I think it really is like a mathematical binding that binds universes into the current place. It's almost like, our universe is constantly expanding. Mm-hmm. I almost envision it as if we had a beam on it, we would kind of stop that. But then this beam is beyond just one universe. Mm-hmm. It's much more advanced physics.
Right.
Which is cool, but then I have such a hard time trying to conceptualize
It definitely also seems to manifest as some type of energy or something that goes through the world. Because remember how he said, like, just blur your eyes and you can see, like, how things grow around it.
The trees, the cloud, like, everything just kind of... And then also
like, all universes, those beams.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like... It's space-time beyond universes, so it's really interesting.
It's really cool.
But a cool concept, very tough one to grasp, but like a fun one to try to grasp, I think, at least.
Right.
I do say, did any of you guys get this vision? So after they find the beginning, the gateway, I was envisioning like, oh, this might be such a badass gateway. And then Stephen King described it, and he's so good at describing everything, and it was basically just like a giant electrical box in the middle of a forest. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just a steel electrical box that would maybe go down into like a little crawl space cellar in the middle of this woods. And I'm thinking like, that's the gateway? Like, what is this shit? It's just like some little like, and then Eddie, that whole scene where Eddie like puts his hand, like he's like sensing what's inside of it and it's creeping him out and everything. I'm like, sounds corrupted. I don't know, but it's weird. So another thing that's just like super unique and different. And totally
brings
weird.
up more questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. You guys want to break for this episode and
Sounds
do
good.
Sounds
part
good.
2?
Yeah, I need a refill.
Yeah, I brought my refill over. But we got, a pretty good ways. Now we kind of get to talk a little bit about Lud.
Right.
I think we basically worked our way up there.
Yep.
And our favorite two people, Gasher the Gross and Tick-Tock Man, a.k.a. the Captain.
What I'm looking forward to talking
After
about
he went
is
crazy.
Blaine.
Yeah, I hate
And
Blaine's my
Blaine the
favorite.
Train.
Oh, yeah. Blaine the Mono.
See you later,
Or Blaine the
alligator.
Mono.
In a while,
So that's what we have to
crocodile.
look forward to in
Don't forget
part
to write.
2.
Don't forget to
Don't
write.
forget to write. Oh,
Cheers.
So creepy. Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers. Alrighty.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Lit Literature. If you liked us, please check out our social media at Lit Literature 1 at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't hesitate to join in on the conversation. We appreciate the conversation, the questions, book recommendations, anything of that sort. Join in right on the social media websites. And don't forget to check us out at our website, litliterature.com, and our upcoming projects, though there aren't many now besides Lit Literature, you can find at lyket.net, Lyket. We do have a Patreon account, but if you truly want to support us, please like and share. Cheers.